Object can be related either as component or as entity. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to associate object or collection of objects as component. One thing, component differ from entity in a way that component do not have identity in database. They cannot exist on their own. They share the ID of their parent entity. For example, talking about person details, person can have identity ID with other attributes like name, city and state. It's gonna be okay to define all the attributes in person Pojo when name, city and states belong to the unique ID. But consider a situation where we have almost 50 to 60 attributes. In that case, maintaining all the attributes in a single Pojo gonna be difficult. We can divide the person details Pojo in separate classes. Person containing ID and name and class address containing city and state. There is no need for any ID attributes for address class. I already have a project name person details with Pojo class person with ID and name as property. In client code, I create an instance of person, populate it and request the Hibernate session to persist it. In Hibernate configuration file, I just map the person.hbm.xml as a source. Next, I'm gonna create a new class address with property city and state and their getter and setter. Next, need to make a change in person.hbm.xml file to map the address as component. Use component tag of Hibernate, populate the name attribute of it with the address what we're gonna declare later in the person class. Also map the properties of address class. All done in XML file. Next, gonna change person class and define an attribute address with getter and setter. Make a modification to client code to incorporate changes in person instance for address attribute. Create an instance of address class, populate the city and address details of address with say Gwalior and MP and set the created address instance to person class property address. Let's check everything once again. In HBM file, map the address as component, map the person.hbm.xml in configuration file, address attribute declared in person class and client code is modified to incorporate the changes. Next, at the database side, first I'm gonna drop the person table. Okay, it's done. Let's execute the client code. Okay, it's working. Let's check the entry in database. Yes, details are there and the address details successfully mapped as component. Now let's map the collection of addresses component. For this, first modify the person class. In place of associating single address property, I'm gonna associate a collection of addresses set and change the getter and setter. Next, change the client code to populate the associated set of address to person instance. Create one more address to set city of it to Pune and state to Maharashtra. Then create the collection address as hash set. Add both the addresses to it and set the person instance with the created hash set. Next, we need to modify the person.hbm.xml to map the collection of components in place of component. For that, we need to map the created set of address. In place of components, now we have to map the composite element. Specify the type of element collection contains, that is the class address. To use the collection as a set in Hibernate, we need to declare the key in the set, which is going to act as a foreign key in the table at the database side. We have to specify the name of the column. It automatically gonna refer to primary key. Let's check everything once again. Okay, things are fine. Let me first clean the database. I'm gonna drop the table. Okay, done. Let's execute the client once again. Executed successfully. At the database side, two tables are created, person and person address. In person address, AID gonna act as a foreign key, referring to primary key ID of person table.